As a journalist, if I had $1 for every time someone said they were sick and tired of reading negative, depressing news, I'd be rich. And I probably wouldn't be working as a journalist anymore. Our field gets a bad rap for failing to share positive, uplifting stories. But we don't make the news, we report it as it happens. And that includes weird, wacky stories that make us scratch our heads or choke while trying to stifle a laugh in a courtroom. I hope this conversation between Sidebar hosts Nicholas Iovino, Amanda Pampuro, and Nina Polano about some of those cases brings some light or holiday cheer to your newsfeed this season. Here's their discussion.
Hi, Amanda and Nina.
Hey, Nick. This is Amanda in Denver.
Hey, Nina in Brooklyn. How's it going?
Good. We're having one of those record years with no snow.
It's fun to see everyone from across the country. It's one of the cool things about Courthouse News is we have people everywhere, but then we don't get to all be in the same place too much.
We're literally repping the East Coast, the West Coast, and the center of the country today.
So we're going to talk about some weird and wild cases today.
I have one that came out of Brooklyn this year. It's a lawsuit that Nike filed against the company that worked with Lil Nas X to make a pair of Satan shoes.
What?
So the rapper and artist Lil Nas X dropped a video earlier this year that is peak camp.
The rapper is facing backlash for his newest video, Call Me By Your Name. In the video, he pole dances to hell and gives the devil a lap dance.
It has some satanic themes. It has pastel-colored Marie Antoinette wigs. It's pretty wild and a lot of fun. And the company had done this before. They essentially ordered custom Nike Air Max 97s and then style them and sell them with this, but these changes to modify the shoe and give it a certain signature look. In this case, that meant adding red ink and human blood to the midsole. That was one of the kind of signature. It had a pentagram on the laces. It had satanic themed detailing, but that drop of blood was really like the grabby part of the design.
Hold on, there was an actual drop of blood in the sneakers?
There was an actual drop of blood in the sneakers.
Do you know whose blood is in the shoes?
Yeah, the blood came from people at this company, Mischief. And they make all kinds of kind of novelty and prank items, but I guess it was just just a few drops. And it was mixed with red ink, so it was like a single drop of blood, and then the rest of it was just ink.
Oh, and do you remember how many were sold? Are they still out there?
They're not still out there. They only sold 666 pairs, and they went really fast. They sold out in a minute, and they went for over $1,000 per pair. Miley Cyrus had a pair. She Instagrammed them. So definitely coveted. I wonder if those will kind of get resold in sneakerhead communities in the years to come.
I'm sure they'll be very valuable with that limited supply.
Sweat, blood, and tears.
So Nike didn't love this idea.
Nike is suing over Lil Nas X's polarizing Satan Shoes collaboration. The sportswear giant filed a trademark infringement lawsuit against Mischief. That's the streetwear company responsible for the divisive design. Lil Nas X is not...
And they filed this lawsuit against the company. They didn't name Lil Nas X, but obviously he was, the creative mind behind the whole thing. And there was a whole to-do, I guess, about the satanic theme, right? Like that was a big issue for Nike. But the company brought up in responding to the lawsuit that they had previously made what they called Jesus shoes. And instead of a drop of blood, those shoes had a drop of holy water in them. And that one didn't raise as many eyebrows.
Were there threats to boycott Nike over this?
Yeah, I think one of the things that Nike really was responding to were some comments on Instagram, and they cited those in their complaint. People saying that Nike swoosh, that trademark logo, is now on something that's satanic and themed and had some issues with that. So I don't know how kind of widespread that concern or those, how popular the view is that these shoes shouldn't be sold. But Nike certainly took an issue with it. And the case was settled pretty quickly. We don't know the terms of the agreement. Those were kept private. But I had a funny moment. I covered the lawsuit in Brooklyn, and we knew it was settled. We knew it was a done deal. And a few months later, if you're on Twitter, Lil Nas X is a very prolific tweeter. He's making a lot of jokes. He tweets a lot of memes, and he loves SpongeBob. So he started tweeting I think it was in July, that he was going to court that morning, and he's talking about the shoes, and he's saying, I might go to jail. And for me, having reported on the complaint, I kind of panicked. I thought I must have missed some big court appearance, and something happened to the case, some new development. So I reached out to his attorneys. They said, no, there's no appearance this morning. And within a few hours, the curiosity was satisfied. Lil Nas X was dropping a new music video, and in advertising it, he released another video where he's in court, and again, very campy. He's playing the judge and the lawyer and himself as the defendant, and that was sort of his preview. It was all marketing, and well, it worked because I was emailing his lawyers in a frenzy. And that was a fun one from earlier this year. I don't know, Nick, what's the weirdest case you have ever covered?
I would probably have to say the monkey selfie case. That case basically ended it back in 2018. What started this dispute happened in 2011, when nature photographer David Slater went to Indonesia and found a black-crested macaque, which is a rare species of monkey in Indonesia. And the monkey's name was named Naruto. And the photographer had the monkey take his camera and take selfie pictures. He used his opposable thumbs to snap some photos. It is one of the best pictures we've published because Naruto is smiling and looks like he's really posing for the picture. We'll have to put it on the podcast website.
It's a case of monkeying around, huh?
Years later, in 2015, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, which is a notorious animal rights group that some consider to be somewhat extreme, they filed a lawsuit against the nature photographer and said he was violating this monkey's rights to the copyright, because when you take a photo of something, that's an artistic endeavor and you own the copyright and you own the rights to profit from it. He had put these photos in a book of photography, and PETA filed a lawsuit as a next friend to Naruto and said that this money should go to benefit his endangered species. Now, the suit did not go very far. The judge quickly dismissed it because he said the law does not give animals the right to sue over copyright. The copyright law does not say anything about animals being able to sue. Wikimedia was not involved in the case, but they had another legal stance saying that because animals can't own copyrights, that the photos should be public domain. But there was an appeal, so after the judge dismissed it, PETA took the case to the Ninth Circuit. They had oral arguments, and before the Ninth Circuit issued a decision, a settlement was reached where the nature photographer David Slater agreed to donate 25% of the proceeds to benefit Naruto's species there in Indonesia. They had asked the Ninth Circuit to dismiss the case because they settled it, but the panel refused to do so. They went ahead and issued a ruling anyway and said that they upheld that, copyright law does not give animals the right to sue. So one of the judges on the panel, N. Randy Smith, he's a George W. Bush appointee, he wanted to go further and say that PETA should never have been able to file this lawsuit because people should not be able to file lawsuits on behalf of animals like that. And the nature photographer who was fighting this lawsuit hard before he reached the settlement was really against that. He wanted to maintain that right for people to be able to file lawsuits on behalf of animals to uphold their rights. But since that was only a minority opinion, and Randy Smith's opinion is not Ninth Circuit case law now.
That just makes me wonder all the implications if that had continued, like animals in Hollywood having rights, or those elephants that paint pictures with their snouts. Could they have owned the copyright?
Right, that's a question, and people think there's going to be more questions in the future about robots creating works of art and whether a artificial intelligence can own a copyright.
Oh, that's awesome, because they have algorithm-generated news stories. Does that go to the company or the technology? I can't wait to see that first one filed. None of those have been filed yet, right?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Do you know where Naruto is today?
I tried to look up if he's, still alive, and I couldn't find anything. I'm not sure what the lifespan is of the crested black macaque.
I'm sure he's just living a low-key, off-grid life, retired from photography.
I'm sure.
And alongside greeting Naruto, we should also post our picture of Cherie DeVille, the Los Angeles adult film star who stood up against Utah this year and levied the greatest First Amendment battle against their porn ban.
What is the Utah porn ban?
So Utah, the state legislature in Utah passed a bill signed by their governor into law earlier this year that has been characterized as banning porn in the state. It's a little bit more nuanced than that. Essentially, once 5 other states sign on to this law and pass similar legislation, in Utah, all mobile devices that are sold are going to have adult content filters turned on by default. And currently, adult content filters are turned off. And this bill was introduced by Utah Rep. Susan Pulsiper, who actually won an Excellence Award from the State Association of Public Charter Schools this year. And she's such a sweet, sweet lady. When I talked to her, she was shocked that her law was being characterized as an anti-porn bill. She's like, I don't care what people do in their privacy. We got to keep pornography out of the hands of children. And parents are getting these devices and they don't know how to turn off filters, and you can't imagine what children are accessing. So Cherie said if a law like this passed, it's a slippery slope to government infringing on what content you can access. And one thing that did not make it into the story, she told me that based on her data, her Utah fans loved her naughty stepmom content. And she was using this as a platform to show that small steps by government can have big implications.
This has been on my radar, not just as something that might affect adult content creators, but as something that's actually a much bigger, in my opinion, free speech issue.
I spoke with Benjamin Bull from the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, and he said outright, yes, we want to ban porn, and we're slowly introducing bills to effectively do this. In 2016, Utah, along with Arizona, Idaho, and Missouri, all declared that porn was a public health crisis. In order for this adult content filter law to take effect, other states have to pass similar legislation. Similar legislation already failed in Missouri and Arizona, but it's an issue that's going to continue to unfold as internet access expands and parents genuinely struggle to figure out how to moderate the vast internet of things in their children's hands.
So what was the issue that Cherie DeVille was challenging here? What was the kind of basis of the lawsuit?
So there was no lawsuit over this. This was just complaints in the legislation stage. And Cherie said she didn't have the money to sue over the law.
What happened to the legislation?
It passed in Utah, and it will go into place if 5 other states enact similar bills. And the reason why it's tacked on to other states is they think that that'll give them a bigger ability to negotiate with companies like Apple and Android, which would have to set those devices to those specific settings before they send them to that state.
So if this law were to go into effect, what would be the enforcement mechanism to enforce it?
If, say, Verizon doesn't start selling these devices, the Utah will sue them. So that is when we will see it challenged, is when it takes effect.
This law would apply to sales of phones in those states, so you could go out of state and buy a phone that was not affected by it. Is that right?
Absolutely. And you can buy a device and turn off the adult content filter in the settings as well. This was a case that started off as a big grand idea. We're going to put adult content filters in, and then the application was slowly winnowed down throughout the legislative process into just like this one minor setting on the phone. Because I know that my editor had questions about how are they going to enforce this? Are they going to put tracking devices on people's phones in Utah to make sure their content filters are on the appropriate setting? And the actual law did not get into that territory.
I assumed in defending the law that the people who supported passing this law were saying it's too difficult for parents to make these changes. And what did the other side say to that?
There were several tech companies that lobbied against this, saying that it would just pose undue hardship to be setting devices to different settings for different states. So that's the question, is should the burden be put on the parents to figure out how to use their device and turn on these settings? Should the burden be on the manufacturer to make it easy for parents or people growing up in Mormon Utah to put on these settings? Maybe the tech companies will just go along with it and listen to what Utah did and respect their law, but that doesn't typically seem to be the case, so I would foresee litigation. Tech companies have been very vocal and active in these kinds of First Amendment, censorship, freedom of speech laws where they intersect with the technology. And that's definitely a space where there's a lot of open questions. Should the government be regulating speech?
I think, like you said, it seems like something that will only become more of an issue for the courts to look at as more and more technology develops and we grapple with these kinds of questions.
Totally. I love lawsuit or bill that's being introduced that just brings up all these questions about what kind of society we are, and not necessarily having the answers, but being able to listen in on that debate.
Something that has puzzled some of us at Courthouse News for years is why this story about an old case regarding halal chicken, specifically whether a KFC in Chicago can market its chicken as halal, is consistently the top viewed story on Courthouse News, even years later after the most recent development. And, we've been wondering, why is everyone so interested in halal chicken?
So, hold on. Break that down a little bit. What's going on here?
So in 2016 or 2017, KFC told this guy who owned 8 KFCs in Illinois to stop marketing his food as halal.
Since 1955, Kentucky Fried Chicken's had great tasting chicken with the Colonel's secret blend of 11 herbs and spices. You're familiar with the formula, I believe.
And halal is Arabic for lawful. It's food that Muslims are allowed to eat. And because his chicken was certified by the Islamic Society of Washington area, and he served the Muslim community, he wanted people to know that they could feast in the chicken and not feel guilty about it. But KFC, oddly enough, had a policy going back to 2009 explicitly prohibiting franchisees from marketing religious dietary claims about their food.
I wonder what the reason for that policy is. Maybe they don't want to, offend other religions, or they want to just be a non-denominational chicken provider.
In 2018, the court sided with the chicken giant and told this man to stop marketing his food as halal. And interestingly enough, this story continues to get daily interaction that completely blows all the other coverage out of the water.
I don't know how this story is consistently number one on our website, but my only guess is maybe people are really interested in knowing whether chicken at KFC is halal, and that's the story that comes up.
The mysteries of SEO and browsing the Courthouse News website.
So interesting. We started with Satan's shoes, and now we have holy chicken that can't be marketed as such.
Well, if we have listeners who, like our readers, are interested in learning more, let us know. Again, follow us on Twitter. We're Sidebar CNS. And these articles are posted still on the Courthouse News website. So you can join the legion of readers that are continuing to take interest in this story from a couple years ago.
Wow. At least in 2022, as Sidebar continues to investigate other stories of great legal and societal importance, we will get to the bottom of this mystery as well.
Well, it was so great talking to you guys about these weird and wild cases and courthouse news mysteries.
Yes, it was a great way to end the first year of our podcast.
I can't wait to see what 2022 has in store for all of us.
All right, guys, I'll see you in the new year.
All right, bye. Like, I don't know, should monkeys own copyrights? Should anyone be able to put blood in their shoes if they want to? Burning questions.
And to think that covering something as serious as U.S. courts can sometimes be fun. It's been great working with Nick, Amanda, and Nina on Sidebar this year. Special thanks to our editors Bill Datinga and Jamie Ross, podcast producer Kirk McDaniel, and social media boss Sean Duffy. We hope you have a happy and healthy holiday season. See you next year.